Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now let's look at Nigerian politics against the backdrop of the ENDSARS protests a year on and the background of a separatist agitation led often by the youth in the southeast. Politicians in Anambra State are campaigning for the governorship election taking place on November the 6th. But are the youth of Nigeria being brought into the political equation as a way of giving them a voice in the affairs of the nation and tapping into their enormous demographic strength as the political parties gear up for their electoral test in Anambra State in a fortnight? And beyond Anambra, where do things stand now in Nigeria, 12 months after the ENDSARS protests that swept across this country, including Anambra State? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the governorship candidate of the Action Alliance Party in Anambra State, Chief Ben Etiaba. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Is it morning yet on Creation Day, to quote Chinua Achebe in one of his writings? The dreams you nursed for Nigeria in the 60s, 70s, 80s, have they turned into a nightmare as life continues here?
Nightmare, yes. Morning yet, not sure. Charles, I can tell you that what happened 12 months ago it came as a rude shock to many of us. Not that we never expected that, because we were for a long time sitting on a keg of gunpowder. So when it happened, we thought our youth were lazy and couldn't do anything to help the situation. So I didn't know, and most of us didn't know that they had it in them to say enough was enough. But what has transpired since then? Are we better off today, given the reasons they were protesting, than we were 12 months ago? I think not. I live in the southeast. I live in Anambra State, mostly. I'm campaigning for the governorship position in Anambra, so I'm in Anambra all the time. And I find I live in a state where there's hardly any police presence anymore. I mean, at the moment, there's quite a lot of military presence and police because of a specific reason.
The operation.
Yes, exactly. What's
that's
the
been launched there
of the last month or so, there about the many killings. But prior to that, I can tell you that none of the police stations in Anambra, or most of the police stations in Anambra, went walking. In Newi, for instance, none. You can't see a uniformed policeman anywhere. You cannot go to the police station and see anyone there. So have we really, so are we safer today than we were a year ago? No. The youths, the reason why they protested, those things being addressed, I'm not too sure. But I'm an optimist. And I believe that tomorrow will be better than today. And like we said, there's an opportunity. There's an election coming up in Anambra State in November. That's a good opportunity for us to make a fresh start. But I'll talk about Anambra when we get there. Yeah.
But just returning to the ENDSARS protest, do you think the attitude of the government towards its citizens has changed for the better since the ENDSARS protest a year ago? Or do you think Nigerians have a much stronger reason today to be less trusting of government?
Okay, like I said, I'm an optimist. I can tell you.
Well, I'm asking for your analysis.
Yes, I can.
Not your optimism.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I don't believe the government has addressed the issues raised the right way. A few things have been done. I mean, you can't. I'm not here to sort of pound over them. A few things have been done. SARS reformed. Quite a few, reforms here and there, but not enough. We're still barely scratching the surface of the problem. So, no, we still have a long way to go towards addressing these issues. Yeah.
And as a politician who is clearly campaigning to try and make change and campaigning with a lot of warnings to the people that you must effect change now or things are going to get worse. Yeah. Do you see the ENDSARS protests as a manifestation of that belief, or it's not quite as bad as you thought it was?
No, it was clearly a manifestation of the belief, and that's actually, I'm running for governor precisely because I'm frustrated with the way things are going, frustrated that a nation so blessed with all manner of human capital resources, natural resources that we're scratching around because we've been so badly led over the years, okay? It's not just in my state. It's like that in virtually every state in Nigeria. And pretty much in Africa, the same thing. We have leaders who are basically businessmen, business politicians. What we have we don't have leaders. We have political businessmen in leadership positions. So until we begin to change the mindset of our people, and quite frankly, the problem for me that I see, I've been doing this for the last 2.5 years, and I see an electorate so docile, so accommodating of the bad deal they are getting, that they're not willing to stand up and see change come through. They fail to understand, and I keep saying it all over and over again. I'll do my best. They fail to understand that if you keep doing the same thing the same way, the result will still be the same. Nothing will change. An election less than a month away, and they're still talking about how much money are you giving them. And I'm thinking, which bit of this am I not getting? Is the problem, is it with me or what? So basically, I am trying to tell the people, but I'm swimming against the tide. Trying to, sort of educate our masses that, look, you have to look beyond money. You have to look beyond today.
Yeah, but that's
look
a rather
in the medium to long term.
That's a rather difficult thing to say to someone who is hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, there is, as I'm sure you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, when you're at the very bottom and you're scratching for a living, I mean, what your immediate concern is to feed yourself and your family. And if somebody offers you money, you're more likely to do what they want you to do.
Exactly. If you look at what is happening, our politicians, our leaders, deliberately, as a matter of policy, impoverish our people in order to be able to manipulate them this way. Okay? But what I'm saying to them is that there's a different way of doing these things. If we starve for the next 1 month, we're not going to die. Let us starve in Anambra, for instance, for 1 month.
Some people might die.
No. You know what I mean. I'm not talking about it
you
literally.
mean that metaphorically?
Yes, metaphorically, not literally. Right. Okay? Let us, sort of brace up for a month and put in the right type of man or woman. In Anambra State, funnily enough, all 18 candidates are men. It doesn't make me happy. So put in the right man in this case, out of the 18, that will serve to change the course, the destiny of our people.
Yeah, but you're
doing business as usual.
I understand what you mean, but you're asking the people. You say you are fighting against the tide.
Yeah,
they themselves are also running against the tide, because oftentimes they've been totally disempowered. They have no capacity to transform the electoral system, and they have lost faith in the electoral system because they don't believe that their votes are going to count. So what they do is try and see what they can get in the short, immediate term, which they perceive as the democratic dividend that they're only ever going to get.
Charles, I hear you quite loudly, but I say this to you. If we learned anything from the ENDSARS riots, it's just that there's been a clear demonstration that the people can come together, okay, without any insight, without any inducement, to demand for change. Okay, and all these guys, young men and women that took to the streets last year, none of them was paid a dime as far as I know, okay? They were frustrated like I am, pretty much like I am now doing this thing. So it is possible that if our people can come together,
that's a good point,
that we can effect change. You cannot tell me that we can, what's the difference between what we have in Nigeria and what they have in Ghana? In Ghana 2 months ago, a politician loaded a Hilux truck, a load of rice to give to the electorate, and they rejected it. These black West African guys like us, they rejected it. No, we don't want rice. We don't want your Indomie. Give us jobs. Okay, give us employment opportunities. Let me tell you why these things are happening. When the young ones, ours is gone. We're talking about our kids now. I'm doing this for the benefit of the next generation, not for we've lost it. Now, when people don't see that there's any hope that tomorrow will be better than today, what do you expect them to do? It's not just in the ENDSARS riots. Look at IPOB. What's happening in the Southeast? Every Monday we sit at home. Even when they've told us to go to work, everybody's scared. Nobody's leaving on Mondays. In the Southeast, exactly the same thing. We have had a colossal, sort of lack of leadership in the Southeast, in Anambra State, in Nigeria, and that is why that vacuum is there. And nature abhors the vacuum. Wherever and whenever that vacuum is there, someone else is going to occupy it, and they are now beginning to listen to a different set of leaders.
So let's pick up on that IPOB thing. What would you do if you became governor of Anambra State with regard to that?
Okay, you see, members of IPOB are guys like you and I. Okay, they are frustrated like you and I. Mazin Nnamdi Kanu, they're saying is a terrorist. But I say this to you. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. I remember in the 80s, I was in England, I believe you were in England at that time, and Margaret Thatcher once referred to Nelson Mandela at the time as a terrorist. And I felt so bad, because as a black man in London, I felt that my people were being not treated right in South Africa, okay? Years later, Mandela was released, Mandela became a statesman, became a prime minister. Thatcher was queuing.
President.
Became prime minister. I mean, Mandela was president. Thatcher as was queuing alongside other statesmen in Britain to have the privilege of shaking Mandela's hand. The same man he described as a terrorist years earlier. So the point I'm making is that our people are frustrated. What will I do? Showcase leadership. Lead by example. If we can show them that there's a leader who says what he means and is able to walk his talk, they will begin to give you that benefit of doubt. And especially when they begin to see the dividends of having an altruistic leader, a selfless leader, a leader who is there for the people, for the many, and not for himself and his family.
Right. Let's just go back to the ENDSARS protest, which seemed, in the context of the docility, as you pointed out, of the Nigerian people, seemed like a big upheaval. But it was, of course, eventually and perhaps a little too easily defeated, wasn't it?
Yes, because the journey of 1,000 miles will always start with one step. None of us knew that Nigerian youth had that in them in the first place. Okay, they've taken that first step. I'm hoping that the next step will not be taken by them. I'm hoping that we are going to begin to showcase leadership, begin to solve some of these issues that gave rise to that kind of protest, so that they won't up their game and take it to a more violent level. We don't want to see that. I don't want to experience another ENDSARS riot, okay? Because all of us were in danger, you and I. It could have been any one of us. Lives were lost, okay? So yes, it's easy to say, the whole thing petered out. It's easy to say that, no. But what I will say is, having ensured that anarchy didn't take place or remained in place, now is the time to begin to address these issues bedeviling our people and our nation.
How much sympathy and empathy do you think Nigerian politicians have for the youth of this country as we look back on those ENDSARS protests a year on? And we've got a minute before we have to take a break.
Zero sympathy. We need leaders with emotional intelligence to begin to address these issues. This is why somebody like me is running for the office of governor of Anambra State.
Yeah, but are you close to the youth of this country?
Very.
Do you talk at them or do you talk with them?
With them. I have spent all of my years, in the last 14 years since I came back to Nigeria, mentoring the young ones in the Southeast. That's what I've always done. I'm known for that. My campaign is being sponsored by them. I don't have any money. They are contributing the little they can. And they are doing all the social media work, and I'm sure you've seen them. Most of those things you see are donated. They are aligning with me. My prayer is that we have enough of them coming out to vote November 6th to elect a different type of leader in Anambra.
Stay with us. We're going to come straight back. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about ENDSARS, politics, and the youth of Nigeria. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, demonstrations have been held in cities across Nigeria to mark 1 year since mass protests against police brutality erupted in this country. Last year's rallies, the largest in Nigeria's recent history, began by calling for the disbanding of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, or SARS, but escalated into protests over bad governance. Against that backdrop, new political parties are calling for a third way in Nigerian politics and are hoping to tap into the youth population as a political force that can transform their electoral fortunes. But is the game of politics one that the Nigerian youth are willing to play in a world in which there is an enormous trust deficit? And the governorship candidate of the Action Alliance Party in Anambra State, Chief Ben Etiaba, is still with me in the studio. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.
Indeed, for staying with us. What is the purpose of your own politics and of you seeking elective office?
Okay, the purpose is quite simply that I seek to take my people out of darkness, political darkness, and into light.
Yeah, but why should they trust you? Because virtually every other politician has said that and let them down.
Yes, but you have to look at, they are looking at the wrong things, the wrong indices when it comes to elections. They are looking at the candidate with the deepest wallet, the candidate that's able to give them as much money ahead of time.
Well, they're also looking at what the candidates have said in the past.
Yes, and that's what they should be, part of what they should be looking for. And what those candidates have done in the past to make them believe that they will do what they are saying they will do. And that's why I feel I should be elected, because I've contested 5 elections and I've won all 5 elections before now. And I did precisely what I said I was going to do each time. And on each of those 5 occasions, I was re-elected unopposed. You don't get your re-elections unopposed if you have not lived up to your campaign promises. I can tell you some of those ones, but if you want me to,
go ahead.
At the age of 27, as a bachelor, unprecedented, I won the election to lead the whole of Nnewi community citizens in the United Kingdom and Ireland. Unheard of that a 27-year-old bachelor could do that. I was re-elected unopposed.
Well, that's a different place.
No, I'll tell you.
It?
No, it's okay. I'm leading up to this. After that, in the year 2002, I became the first person of Igbo extraction in the United Kingdom to become the chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, United Kingdom District. Okay? And I was re-elected unopposed.
When you said, when you were talking about the elections, I thought you were going to tell me you were running for something in Anambra State.
No, I'll get to that. I'll come from the UK.
Right.
I have a history. I'm trying to tell you. And the only person that served 2 terms, okay, ICANN for 2 terms. No chairman has served ICANN for 2 terms till today. After that, I became sort of an election was called to lead the London group, Nigerian group of operation, and I won. Re-elected. But when I came back to Nigeria, I ran 2 elections, and I won unopposed in Enugu, okay, to serve Enugu Sports Club, 1929, that your father was a member of the club at some point when he was alive, okay? And the golf section, unheard of that somebody who had just been in the club for a few months will win such election to lead such caliber of people, governors, GOCs, commissioners of police, and all of that. So I've done all of that. You go from 1 to 2. Okay?
So the fact that you ran to lead an organization, and the fact that you ran to lead a sports club, that's your example to the people of having run for things and won?
Exactly. It should be. It's what you have that you can talk about, okay? And it is how you handle a small office that will tell people what you will do if entrusted with a bigger office, okay? If you messed up a small entity, there's no way you're going to lead a state like Anambra State. But if you have proven consistently to be a safe pair of hands, an innovative leader, a creative and strategic thinker in any establishment, get a state, you do exactly the same thing. It doesn't have to be big, it can be small. However small it is, do it well. That's what should count.
Right. Now, it's interesting that there are always rumors floating around Nigerian politics. And now that we've got you here, perhaps you could clear that for us. But there's a rumor floating around that you collapsed your campaign into that of APGA and Charles Soludo, who is now ostensibly their candidate, and that you were planning to merge your campaign with his. In other words, you'd given whatever votes you have to him. Can you confirm or deny?
Okay, Charles, I think you know me enough to know that I'm somebody who's independent-minded.
Well, I don't actually. I'm trying to get to.
Oh, you're trying to get to work that out. Okay, I maybe I'm giving you much more credit than you ought to get.
I like that.
Okay. So precisely, there is no ounce, not 1 iota of truth in that. You see, in politics, people will try to, when they see you're gaining momentum, they'll try and float one rumor or the other to distract you. But what has happened since they floated that is that people have actually stood up to take a notice of what I'm doing in the Action Alliance. There is no ounce of truth that I will ever negotiate to hand over whatever I have achieved in politics, in leadership, to someone else for their benefit. I don't believe I'm in this race because I believe I'll win it. And without being arrogant, I don't believe that there's anybody in this race who can offer the people the selfless service that I represent.
You don't think Charles Soludo would offer that?
You need a leader who is humble next in Anambra State, okay? You have to know your onions, but you have to be humble. Don't underrate the virtue of humility in public service, in leadership.
Yeah, well, I don't understand what you mean. Are you saying he's not a humble person?
You're saying that. What I'm saying is that next in Anambra, you go and check that out, and then you can come back and tell me from your results. What I'm saying is precisely that you need a leader next in Anambra who is humble. Anambra needs that. The last time we had a governor that was humble, a servant of the people, the difference was very clear. I'm not going to mention his name here, but my people know who I'm referring to. Don't underrate the virtue of humility in service, in public service.
Yeah, but he's emerged as the candidate of APGA. I mean, he had to go through the hoops to get there.
I have emerged, and a lot of people were disqualified for him to emerge, by the way, but that's not my headache. That's an APGA problem. I have emerged the candidate of Action Alliance. And let me tell you about Action Alliance. Action Alliance is the fourth biggest party in this race. After PDP and APC and APGA, the next biggest party is Action Alliance. Because 3 years ago, in Imo State, we produced a senator, we produced 3 members of the House of Reps, we produced 10 members of the State House of Assembly. After that, after Action Alliance being the fourth party, then you have YPP. Yes, of course. We have a seat, my own senator is of YPP stock, but he's the only person elected on the banner of that party. We have had many elections. We have many councillors and members of the House in many other states in the country. So it is inconceivable that the candidate of Action Alliance, Ben Etiaba for that matter, will collapse what I'm doing.
Okay, well, you've made
other platform.
Right,
that cannot work.
You've made that
and
point.
By the way, I am actually hunting for parties who will collapse into what I'm doing. So.
I like that.
Thank you.
So what is we've got about a minute or so left. What is the constant phenomenon in your politics and in your consciousness and in your worldview?
The constant phenomenon is change. It's about doing things differently. I will never fail to quote Brad Solos, who will always tell you that the key to success is to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And that's what I represent in this race. I am not better than the other candidates, but I am so different from all of them. And that it is that difference that will make the difference this time around. Because if you keep doing the same thing the same way, all of them are lining up to do the same thing the same way, the result will be the same. But I hope that we have 3 weeks plus to save Anambra State and save the southeast of Nigeria by electing Ben Etiaba as the governor of Anambra State.
Okay, Chief Ben Etiaba, I want to thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Thank you, Charles. I'm delighted.
That's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and New Orleans, bye-bye and thank you for watching.